The Galactic Council chamber stretched across 3 kilometers of polished crystalline floors, its vaulted ceiling disappearing into artificial stars that mimicked the home worlds of 1,000 different species. Today, representatives from across the known galaxy had gathered for what many considered the most important decision in their civilization's history. Ambassador Kethvar of the Zenthari Empire adjusted his ceremonial robes as he approached the central podium. His forearms moved with practiced grace, each gesture calculated to convey the gravity of his words. Behind him, holographic displays showed a small blue planet rotating slowly in the darkness of space. Fellow beings of the council, Kethvar began, his voice amplified through translation matrices that converted his words into over 3,000 languages simultaneously. We face an unprecedented situation. The species known as humans from the planet they call Earth has achieved faster than light travel. A ripple of concern passed through the assembled delegates. The insectoid Hrakti clicked their mandibles nervously, while the gaseous Velnari shifted colors from blue to deep purple, indicating distress. It had been over 10,000 years since a new species had achieved interstellar capability. They are primitive, declared Ambassador Yax Tal of the Hegemony Worlds, her crystalline form chiming with each word. Our scouts report they still engage in tribal warfare. They pollute their own atmosphere. They have not even achieved population unity. How could such barbarians possibly join our enlightened society? The question hung in the air like a toxic cloud. For millennia, the Galactic Council had maintained peace through careful control and the suppression protocols. Any species that showed signs of developing dangerous technologies was quietly guided away from such paths, usually through strategic interference with their development. Sometimes this meant introducing plagues to reduce population. Other times it required destroying key scientific facilities or eliminating particularly brilliant individuals. The humans are different, Kethvar continued, activating new displays that showed human cities, their sprawling networks of lights visible from space. They achieved nuclear fission within a century of discovering electricity. They went from their first powered flight to landing on their moon in less than 70 years. Their technological advancement curve is unlike anything we have seen. Which makes them dangerous, hissed Sulmeth, the reptilian representative of the Dominion. His scaled hide rippled with bioluminescent warnings. We should have acted sooner. The protocols exist for a reason. It's too late for the standard protocols, Kethvar replied grimly. They have already launched several interstellar vessels. Our intelligence suggests they will reach the Proxima system within 50 standard years, well within our sphere of influence. The chamber erupted in chaos. Delegates argued in hundreds of languages, creating a cacophony that the translation systems struggled to process. Some called for immediate military intervention, while others suggested more subtle approaches. The Velnari representative began emitting distress pheromones that caused several nearby species to become agitated. High Counselor Mordun, an ancient being whose species had founded the council itself, raised one of her 6 arms for silence. The chamber immediately quieted, such was the respect for her authority. Her people, the Eternal Ones, had guided galactic civilization for over 50,000 years, and their wisdom was rarely questioned. We face a dilemma, Mordun said, her voice carrying the weight of eons. The humans represent everything we have worked to prevent. They are violent, unpredictable, and technologically aggressive. Yet they have already achieved interstellar travel. Direct military action would violate our own principles of non-interference with spacefaring civilizations. Principles that exist because of the Vaxhole War, added Counselor Threndoke, his energy-based form flickering with memories of ancient conflicts. We learned that destroying advanced civilizations only leads to greater violence. The Vaxhole had been a warlike species that the Council had attempted to eliminate 3 millennia ago. The resulting conflict had devastated 17 star systems and led to the extinction of 4 Council member species. From that tragedy had emerged the doctrine that once a civilization achieved interstellar travel, it must be dealt with through diplomacy and integration rather than destruction. But integration requires compatibility with Council values, argued Ambassador Plex Nara of the Trade Federation. Humans show no evidence of evolving beyond their primitive aggressive tendencies. Our sociological models predict they would destabilize the entire galactic order. The debate continued for hours, with delegates presenting evidence of human behavior throughout their species' history. Wars that consumed entire continents, weapons capable of destroying their own planet, environmental destruction on a scale that had rendered portions of their world uninhabitable. Yet mixed with this evidence of brutality were examples of unexpected creativity and resilience. They compose music that triggers emotional responses across species barriers, noted Dr. Valherin, the Council's chief xenopsychologist. Their literature contains philosophical concepts that our greatest thinkers find intriguing. They have repeatedly shown the capacity for both great cruelty and remarkable compassion. Compassion does not prevent genocide, Sulmeth countered. They have committed ethnic cleansing within their own species repeatedly. What would they do to species they consider truly alien? Kefvar had been dreading this moment, but he knew he had to present the final piece of evidence. With a gesture, he activated a new hologram that showed a human space vessel, sleek and deadly, its hull bristling with weapons that Council scientists barely understood. "This is their latest starship design," he said quietly. "They call it the Endeavour class. Our long-range scans indicate it carries enough firepower to level a small moon. They have built 12 of them in the past 2 years, with more under construction." The chamber fell silent as delegates absorbed this information. The implications were staggering. Humanity had not only achieved interstellar travel, they had weaponized it to a degree that made them a legitimate threat to any civilization they encountered. "They cannot be allowed to expand unchecked," declared Yoxtal. "Their first contact with any Council species could result in catastrophe." "But direct intervention is forbidden by our own laws," Mordun reminded the Assembly. "We cannot attack a spacefaring civilization without just cause." "Then, we create just cause," suggested Sulmeth, his scale shifting to aggressive orange patterns. "We establish a colony in their path. When they inevitably attack it, we will have the justification we need to respond with force." The suggestion sent shockwaves through the chamber. What Sulmeth proposed was technically legal under Council law, but it violated every principle of ethics the galactic civilization had developed over millennia. It was manipulation of the most cynical kind, designed to trick humanity into providing an excuse for their own destruction. The colony would need to appear legitimate, mused Ambassador Thelgarn of the Mining Guild. A research station or survey outpost. Something humans might reasonably view as a territorial claim. "The Kepler 442 system," suggested Kefvar reluctantly. "It lies directly on their projected expansion route and contains a habitable world. We could establish a xenobiology research station there. When humans arrive and demand we leave, we refuse. Their aggressive nature will ensure they attack us. And, when they do," Sulmeth added with obvious satisfaction, "we respond with overwhelming force. The threat is eliminated, and we maintain our legal and ethical standing within Council law." The debate that followed was unlike anything in Council history. For the first time in millennia, they were deliberately planning to manipulate another species into a conflict that would justify their destruction. Some delegates argued passionately against the plan, claiming it represented everything the Council had worked to transcend. Others insisted that humanity's threat to galactic stability left them no choice. Dr. Valherin requested permission to present an alternative viewpoint. "What if we are wrong about humanity?" she asked. "Our predictions are based on historical behavior and current technology. But species can evolve beyond their origins. The Zenthari were once cannibalistic raiders. The Hrakti were genocidal hive minds. Yet both became productive Council members. The Zenthari and Hrakti required centuries of guided development," Mordun replied. "Humanity achieved interstellar travel before we could influence their social evolution. They remain fundamentally unchanged from their primitive origins." "But fundamentally unchanged might include positive traits as well as negative ones," Valherin persisted. "Human art, music, and literature suggest a capacity for growth that our models may not capture." Her words carried weight, but the fear in the chamber was palpable. No one wanted to gamble galactic civilization on the hope that humanity might evolve beyond their violent tendencies. The final vote was closer than anyone expected, 847 in favor of the deception plan, 623 opposed, with 200 abstentions. It was the narrowest margin in Council history for such a significant decision. "The motion carries," announced Mordun, her ancient voice heavy with regret.
We will establish Research Station Kepler 442 Alpha within 6 months.
The station will be staffed by volunteers aware of the mission's true purpose. When humans arrive and demand our departure, we will refuse and wait for them to provide us with the justification we need. As delegates began filing out of the chamber, each lost in their own thoughts about what they had just authorized, none of them noticed the small monitoring device hidden among the decorative crystals near the podium. The device had recorded everything, every word, every vote, every detail of the plan. Dr. Velharen paused at the chamber exit, her tentacled form quivering with distress. She had voted against the plan, but she was bound by council law to support the majority decision. Yet something deep in her xenobiological training told her they were making a terrible mistake.
Humans were not like other species.
Their development patterns, their cultural evolution, their technological advancement curves, all of it fell outside normal parameters. They were an anomaly, and anomalies by definition could not be predicted using standard models. As she left the chamber, Velharen could not shake the feeling that the council had just made the greatest miscalculation in galactic history. They thought they were setting a trap for humanity, but what if they had actually trapped themselves? The monitoring device continued recording for several more minutes, capturing the empty chamber and the fading echoes of the most momentous decision in galactic history. Then, it activated a quantum transmission protocol that would send its data across impossible distances to a receiver hidden in Earth's asteroid belt.
Humanity had learned long ago that information was the most powerful weapon in the universe.
They had been listening to galactic communications for decades, learning about the Council, their laws, their fears, and their weaknesses. The decision to establish Research Station Kepler 442 Alpha would indeed provide justification for what came next. But it would not be the justification the Council expected. In a hidden facility beneath the lunar surface, Admiral Sarah Chan received the transmission and smiled grimly as she read the Council's plans. They thought they were setting a trap for primitive barbarians. They had no idea that humanity had been preparing for this moment since their first detection of galactic civilization. The Council had just provided humanity with everything they needed to justify the unleashing of forces that would reshape the galaxy forever.
The irony was almost poetic.
In their desperation to prevent humanity from disrupting galactic order, they had given humans legal grounds to do exactly that. Chen activated her secure communications array and began sending orders to fleet commanders throughout human space.
Operation Prometheus was about to begin.
The galaxy was about to learn what happened when you cornered an apex predator and gave it an excuse to bite back.
The Council thought they understood human nature.
They were about to discover how wrong they were. Research Station Kepler 442 Alpha hung in the void like a crystalline jewel, its bioluminescent structures pulsing with the rhythm of a living organism. The station represented the pinnacle of Council engineering, grown rather than built, its organic architecture designed to harmonize with the natural forces of the star system it now called home.
Dr.
Velharen floated in the station's central observation dome, her tentacles interfacing directly with the monitoring equipment as she watched the approaching human fleet through long-range sensors. 6 months had passed since the Council's fateful decision, and now the moment of contact had finally arrived. "They're magnificent," whispered Dr. Kolveth, a crystalline being whose species communicated through harmonic resonances. His form chimed softly as he processed the sensor data.
"Look at those ships. Such aggressive beauty."
The human fleet consisted of 5 vessels, each one a testament to humanity's peculiar approach to engineering. Where Council ships flowed like living things, human vessels were angular, purposeful, built for function over form. Their hulls bore scars from micrometeorite impacts and the stress of interstellar travel, giving them a weathered appearance that spoke of long journeys through hostile space. "The lead ship is broadcasting on multiple frequencies," reported Commander Thexnall, the station's military liaison. His insectoid features clicked nervously as he monitored communications. "They're using mathematical constants and prime numbers.
Basic first contact protocols."
Velharen's heart ached as she watched the peaceful overture. The humans were following standard galactic procedures for initial contact, exactly as any civilized species should. They had no idea they were sailing into a carefully constructed trap.
"Should we respond?" asked Kolveth. "Not yet," Thexnall replied grimly. "Our orders are clear. We wait until they make demands, then we refuse. The Council needs them to initiate hostilities. The human fleet maintained its approach vector, broadcasting increasingly complex mathematical concepts as they drew closer to the station. Their transmission showed remarkable sophistication, demonstrating understanding of galactic standard protocols despite having no previous contact with Council species. "They're trying to establish linguistic frameworks," observed Dr. Yilthara, the station's communication specialist. Her gaseous form shifted through various color spectrums as she analyzed the signals. "They're building translation matrices from scratch. It's quite ingenious." Valharan watched the humans' careful approach with growing admiration and dread. Everything about their behavior suggested a species eager for peaceful contact, yet the Council's plan required them to be portrayed as aggressors. The moral weight of what they were about to do pressed down on her like a crushing gravitational field. "Incoming transmission," announced Yilthara. "They've achieved basic translation capability." The main display activated, showing the interior of the human flagship's bridge. The command crew consisted of various human subspecies, their skin tones ranging from pale pink to deep brown, with males and females working side by side in apparent equality. Their leader was a middle-aged female with graying hair and intelligent eyes that seemed to see more than they revealed. "This is Captain Maria Santos of the UES Endeavour," the human said, her words translated into Council standard with only minor distortion. "We represent the United Earth Coalition and come in peace-seeking dialogue with your civilization." The simple dignity of her statement hit Valharan like a physical blow. Here was first contact, the moment every spacefaring species dreamed of, and the Council was about to corrupt it with lies and manipulation. "We have detected your research station and wish to open diplomatic relations," Captain Santos continued. "We bring greetings from humanity and hope for mutual understanding between our species." Thexnal activated the station's response array with obvious reluctance. "This is Research Station Kepler 442 Alpha of the Galactic Council. You are trespassing in territorial space claimed by Galactic Authority. Withdraw immediately or face consequences." The words were harsh and unwelcoming, designed to provoke the aggressive response the Council needed. Valharan watched Captain Santos' face carefully, looking for signs of the violent reaction their sociological models predicted. Instead, the human captain's expression showed only puzzlement and concern. "I apologize if we have inadvertently entered claimed territory," Santos replied. "We were unaware of your presence and mean no trespass. Perhaps we could discuss territorial boundaries and establish proper protocols for future encounters?" The response was so reasonable, so civilized, that several station crew members exchanged uncomfortable glances. This was not the behavior their briefings had prepared them for. "There are no negotiations," Thexnal continued, following his script despite obvious discomfort. "This system is off-limits to your species. Depart immediately." "May I ask the nature of your claim to this system?" Captain Santos asked politely. "We detected no signs of habitation or resource extraction. Our surveys indicated the system was unoccupied. Our research operations are classified. You have no right to question Galactic Authority." On the human bridge, Captain Santos turned to consult with her crew. Valharan could see the humans discussing options, their body language suggesting careful deliberation rather than aggressive impulses. Whatever decision they reached would determine the course of galactic history. "Commander Thexnal," Santos said finally, "we respect your claim to this system and will withdraw our ships to a safe distance. However, as this appears to be first contact between our species, we formally request permission to leave a small diplomatic vessel in the outer system to facilitate ongoing communication." Surely the establishment of peaceful relations serves everyone's interests. The offer was so unexpected that Thexnal actually recoiled from his communication console. The humans were not only backing down from the confrontation, they were offering to establish formal diplomatic channels. It was the response of a mature civilization, not aggressive barbarians. "Negative," Thexnal replied after receiving urgent orders from Council headquarters through quantum relay. "No human vessels are permitted in this system. Depart immediately and do not return." Valharan watched Captain Santos' face carefully as the rejection registered. She saw disappointment, frustration, and perhaps a hint of suspicion, but no signs of the violent rage the council's psychological profiles predicted. "Very well," Santos said after a long pause. "We will respect your wishes and withdraw. However, I feel compelled to note that your response seems inconsistent with the peaceful exploration of space that benefits all sentient species." "Your opinions are irrelevant," Fexnull replied curtly. "Depart now." The human fleet began its withdrawal, their ships moving in perfect formation as they retreated from the system. For a moment, it seemed the Council's plan had failed completely. The humans had behaved exactly opposite to predictions, showing maturity and restraint when confronted with unreasonable demands. Then, everything changed. "Commander," reported the station's long-range sensor operator, "I'm detecting massive energy signatures emerging from hyperspace. Multiple contacts, bearing directly for our position." The main display switched to show the approaching fleet, and Valharen's blood turned to ice as she saw what was coming. Hundreds of human ships were emerging from faster-than-light travel, their hulls bristling with weapons that made the initial diplomatic vessels look like toys in comparison. "They were scouts," whispered Kolveth, his crystalline form resonating with shock. "The first group were scouts, and now the real fleet has arrived." But, as Valharen watched the massive human armada arrange itself around the system, she realized something was wrong with that interpretation. The timing was too perfect, the coordination too precise. These ships had not been summoned in response to the confrontation at the research station. They had been positioned and ready before the first contact even occurred. "Incoming transmission from the fleet flagship," announced Ylthera, her gaseous form cycling rapidly through stress colors. The display showed a new human command bridge, larger and more sophisticated than Captain Santos' vessel. The person in command was younger, with the bearing of someone accustomed to absolute authority. Her uniform was different too, more military in design. "This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the United Earth Defense Fleet," she announced, her voice carrying an edge that had been absent from Captain Santos' diplomatic overtures. "We have monitored your treatment of our diplomatic mission and find it unacceptable." Fexnull's mandibles clicked frantically as he tried to process this development. "You have no authority in this system. Withdraw your forces immediately." Admiral Chen smiled, but there was no warmth in the expression. "Actually, Commander, I think you'll find our authority is quite well established. We've been monitoring galactic communications for over 50 years. We know about the Council, your laws, your territorial claims, and your methods of dealing with emerging civilizations." The words hit the research station crew like a physical blow. Humans had been listening to galactic communications? That was supposed to be impossible. Council encryption protocols were theoretically unbreakable. "You're lying," Fexnull replied, but uncertainty crept into his voice. Research Station Kepler 442 Alpha was established 6 months ago following Council Resolution 847-623, Chen continued remorselessly. "Its purpose was to create a legal justification for military action against humanity by provoking us into attacking what appears to be a peaceful research facility." Valharen felt her world collapsing around her. The humans knew everything. They had known from the beginning that this was a trap. The Council vote was 847 in favor, 623 opposed, with 200 abstentions, Chen added. "The closest margin in Council history. We have recordings of the entire debate, including Ambassador Solmetha's suggestion to create just cause for attacking humanity." "Impossible," Fexnull breathed. "We've been preparing for this moment since we first detected your civilization," Chen explained. "Humanity learned long ago that information is the ultimate weapon. We knew you would eventually try to stop our expansion. We just needed to wait for you to provide us with legal justification under your own laws." On the display, Chen gestured to someone off-screen. "You see, Commander, by establishing a military outpost in unclaimed space specifically to provoke conflict with humanity, the Council has committed an act of aggression under their own legal code. Article 847 of the Galactic Accords prohibits the use of deception to initiate hostilities with spacefaring civilizations." Valharen accessed the station's legal database with trembling tentacles and confirmed Shen's words. Article 847 was indeed part of the fundamental laws governing interspecies relations. The Council had violated their own most sacred principles.
This gives humanity the right to claim this system and establish our own territorial boundaries, Chen continued. We formally declare the Kepler 442 system to be under human protection, along with all systems within a 50 light-year radius. The claim was staggering in its scope. 50 light-years would encompass dozens of systems, including several established Council territories. It was a declaration of war disguised as legal procedure. You cannot simply claim Council territory, Thexnall protested. Actually, we can, Chen replied. Council law clearly states that any member species that violates the foundational principles of the Accords forfeits territorial rights in the affected region. By establishing this station to deceive humanity, the Council has forfeited all claims in this sector. Admiral Chen's image leaned forward, and Velharin saw something in her eyes that made her understand why the Council's psychological profiles had been so wrong about humanity. They had looked at human behavior in isolation, measuring their capacity for violence without understanding the intelligence that guided it. You wanted to test human nature, Commander, Chen said softly. You wanted to see how we would react when confronted with unreasonable demands and territorial disputes. Well, now you know. We don't lose our tempers and lash out blindly. We prepare. We plan. We wait for our enemies to give us what we need to destroy them legally and completely. The transmission ended, leaving the research station crew in stunned silence. Around them, the massive human fleet began deploying in a pattern that would give them control of all major navigation routes through the system. What do we do? Whispered Kolvev. Velharin stared at the display showing hundreds of human ships, each one carrying enough firepower to level a moon. The Council had wanted to test humanity's violent tendencies, and they had succeeded beyond their worst nightmares. But the violence, when it came, would not be the blind rage of primitive barbarians. It would be the calculated fury of apex predators who had been given every legal justification they needed to reshape the galaxy according to their own vision. We send a message to the Council, she replied quietly. We tell them their trap worked perfectly. The humans have taken the bait. As she composed the message that would inform the galactic government that their carefully laid plan had backfired catastrophically, Velharin wondered how many other traps humanity had prepared for the Council's inevitable response. Something told her this was only the beginning. The Council had wanted to unleash humanity's true nature. They were about to discover they had succeeded far beyond their most terrifying expectations. The era revealed the emergency session of the Galactic Council convened in chaos. Representatives from across the galaxy materialized in the Great Chamber through quantum teleportation, their forms flickering as emergency protocols overrode normal security measures. The crystalline floors that had reflected the calm dignity of galactic civilization for millennia now rang with the sounds of panic. High Counselor Mordun's ancient form trembled as she accessed the reports flooding in from across Council space. In the 72 hours since Admiral Chen's declaration at Kepler 442, humanity had moved with terrifying precision. Their fleets had emerged from hidden positions throughout the galaxy, claiming system after system under the legal precedent they had established. How many systems have we lost? Demanded Ambassador Yaxtal, her crystalline structure flashing rapid distress patterns. 47 confirmed, reported Council Military Coordinator Velhask, his energy form flickering with barely contained anxiety. But that's not the worst of it. They're not just claiming empty systems. They're taking inhabited worlds and offering the population something we never expected. The main display activated, showing footage from the recently claimed Altair system. Human ships had arrived 6 hours ago, overwhelming the small Council defense force with tactics that seemed to anticipate every possible response. But, instead of the brutal conquest everyone feared, the humans had done something unprecedented. The footage showed Admiral Chen standing in the Altair Colonial Assembly, addressing representatives of 7 different Council species. Her words, translated into multiple languages simultaneously, carried an offer that had stunned the galaxy. Citizens of Altair, Chen's recorded voice echoed through the Council chamber, you have a choice. You may remain under Galactic Council authority and face relocation as we establish human territorial claims, or you may accept human protection and retain full autonomy over your local affairs. Ambassador Solmetha's scales rippled with confusion as he watched the footage. Autonomy? They're offering conquered populations independence?
Not just independence, Velhask replied grimly. Full membership in what they're calling the Terran Confederation. Equal representation, equal rights, equal access to human technology. It's completely contrary to our models of their behavior. The display switched to show another system, then another. In each case, the pattern was identical. Human fleets would arrive with overwhelming force, establish military control, then immediately offer local populations a choice between displacement and Confederation membership. Most populations were choosing Confederation. The Rigel system voted to join them unanimously, Velhask continued. The Spican colonies held a referendum and chose Confederation by an 87% margin. Even some of our core worlds are requesting negotiations with human representatives. Mordun's 6 arms gestured for silence as she processed this information. The humans were not behaving like conquerors. They were acting like liberators, offering better terms than many populations had ever received under Council rule. This makes no sense, declared Dr. Krixtal, the Council's chief behavioral analyst. Our psychological profiles indicated they would be brutal overlords, not benevolent administrators. Their own history is filled with exploitation and oppression of conquered peoples. Perhaps our profiles were incomplete, suggested a new voice from the chamber's entrance. All heads turned to see Dr. Velharin entering the assembly, her tentacled form moving with unusual urgency. She had been recalled from research station Kepler 442 Alpha just hours before human forces occupied it, and her first-hand experience with human behavior was now desperately needed. Dr. Velharin, Mordun acknowledged. Your report, please. Velharin approached the central podium, her multiple hearts racing as she prepared to deliver news that would reshape the Council's understanding of everything. Honored counselors, I believe we have fundamentally misunderstood human nature from the beginning. The chamber fell silent as delegates leaned forward to hear her words. We analyzed human behavior in isolation, she continued, measuring their capacity for violence without understanding the context that shapes their actions. Yes, humans are capable of tremendous brutality, but that brutality is not random or mindless. It is directed and purposeful. The display behind her activated, showing historical footage from Earth. Images of human conflicts flashed across the screen, but Velharin had arranged them to show patterns the Council had missed. Every major human conflict in their recorded history was triggered by one of 3 factors: resource scarcity, territorial disputes, or ideological differences. When those factors are absent, humans consistently choose cooperation over conflict. Ambassador Plex Nara of the Trade Federation voiced the question many were thinking. But their violence is legendary. They've committed genocide against their own species repeatedly. Yes, Velharin agreed, but always in specific contexts. Humans are pack hunters who evolved in resource-scarce environments. Their violence is a tool for survival, not an end in itself. When they believe their survival or the survival of their group is threatened, they will use any means necessary to protect themselves. The implications of her words began to sink in as delegates realized what she was suggesting. We threatened them, whispered Councillor Threndok. From their perspective, the Council's plan to eliminate their species was an existential threat. Exactly, Velharin confirmed. We activated their survival instincts on a galactic scale. But, because they had time to prepare and plan, their response was not the chaotic violence we expected. It was organized, systematic, and designed to ensure their long-term survival. By conquering the galaxy, Sulmeth added bitterly. No, Velharin replied, her voice carrying a note of wonder that surprised the assembly. By replacing the system that threatened them with one that serves their security needs. Look at their Confederation model. They're not enslaving conquered populations or extracting tribute. They're building alliances. The display changed to show reports from systems now under human protection. Industrial output was increasing. Trade routes were expanding. Scientific research was accelerating. Most remarkably, the brutal enforcement mechanisms the Council used to maintain order had been replaced with something that looked suspiciously like genuine democracy. They're not trying to rule the galaxy, Velharin explained. They're trying to fix it. High Counselor Mordun's ancient mind struggled to process this revelation. Fix it? What do you mean? The Council maintains order through suppression and control, Velharin replied. We prevent conflicts by preventing development. We ensure stability by keeping populations dependent on central authority. Humans see this as inefficient and, ultimately, unstable. The display showed human technological improvements being shared freely with Confederation members. Advanced medical techniques, more efficient energy production, enhanced communication systems. Everything the Council had carefully rationed to maintain control was being distributed without restriction. Their goal is not domination, Velharin continued. It's optimization. They want to build a galactic civilization that can defend itself, grow, and prosper without the need for oppressive oversight. And they're succeeding, Velhask added reluctantly. Our intelligence reports indicate that Confederation worlds are experiencing unprecedented growth in every measurable category. Ambassador Kethvar, who had originally proposed the plan that led to this catastrophe, stood slowly. What are you saying, Doctor? That we made the right decision for the wrong reasons? I'm saying we never understood what we were dealing with, Velharin replied. Humans are not chaotic destroyers. They are adaptive problem solvers. When we presented them with the problem of galactic civilization stagnation and oppression, they developed a solution. The words hung in the air like a death sentence for everything the Council had believed about itself. For 50,000 years, they had maintained peace through control, preventing wars by preventing progress. The humans had proven that another way was possible. Incoming priority transmission, announced the Chamber's communication system. Admiral Chen requests immediate audience with the full Council. The irony was not lost on anyone present. The representative of the species they had tried to destroy was now requesting a formal diplomatic meeting. It was either breathtaking arrogance or a genuine attempt at peaceful resolution. Accept the transmission, Mordon ordered. Admiral Chen's image appeared in the center of the chamber, her form surrounded by holographic representations of the system's now flying human colors. The speed of her conquest was matched only by its apparent completeness. Honored counselors, Chen began, her tone respectful but firm. I address you not as conquerors to the conquered, but as representatives of one civilization to another. You have annexed 47 council systems, accused Sulmeth. How is that not conquest? Those systems chose to join the Terran Confederation through democratic processes, Chen replied calmly. We have not forced membership on anyone. We have simply offered an alternative to council rule. An alternative backed by overwhelming military force, Yaxtal pointed out. Yes, Chen acknowledged without shame. We learned from your example that in galactic politics, might makes right. The difference is that we use our might to provide choices rather than eliminate them. Mordun leaned forward, her ancient eyes studying the human admiral. What do you want from us, Admiral Chen? Integration, Chen replied simply. The council system is obsolete, but the council species are not. We offer you the same choice we've offered every other population: join the Confederation and retain your autonomy, or remain isolated and face the consequences of irrelevance. The audacity of the offer stunned the assembled delegates. Humans were not demanding surrender or tribute. They were offering membership in their new galactic order as equals. And, if we refuse, asked Plexnara. Then, you continue as you are, governing those systems that choose to remain with you, Chen replied. But, you should understand that choice is a luxury we've introduced to galactic civilization. Your own populations may decide they prefer Confederation membership to Council authority. The threat was implicit but clear. The humans were not going to destroy the Council. They were going to make it irrelevant by offering everyone a better alternative. You're destroying 50,000 years of galactic civilization, protested Threndok. We're fulfilling its potential, Chen corrected. The Council achieved peace through suppression. The Confederation will achieve prosperity through liberation. Dr. Velharin watched the exchange with growing understanding. The humans had not simply conquered the galaxy. They had evolved it, creating a new form of galactic government that addressed the fundamental flaws in the Council system. Admiral, she called out, may I ask what you plan to do about species that cannot coexist with Confederation values? Chen's expression softened slightly as she regarded the xenobiologist who had opposed the original plan. Dr. Valharan, isn't it? I've read your work on interspecies compatibility. It's quite impressive. Thank you, but you didn't answer my question. Because the premise is flawed, Chen replied. There are no species that cannot coexist with Confederation values, because Confederation values are designed around coexistence. Freedom, equality, self-determination, mutual defense. These aren't human values imposed on others. They're universal principles that benefit everyone. Mordon realized with growing horror what the humans had accomplished. They had not just defeated the Council militarily. They had defeated it philosophically, proving that galactic civilization could function better under different principles. The vote, she said quietly. You want us to vote on joining your confederation. Democracy is a fundamental confederation principle, Chen confirmed. But, the choice must be made freely, with full knowledge of the consequences. The consequences were already becoming clear. Systems throughout Council space were holding referendums on Confederation membership. The results were overwhelmingly in favor of joining humanity's new order. As the transmission ended and delegates began arguing about their response, Valharan found herself thinking about the original debate that had started this catastrophe. The Council had feared that humanity would disrupt galactic order. They had been absolutely correct. The error was in believing that disruption would be a bad thing. The humans had indeed unleashed their true nature upon the galaxy. But, that nature was not the mindless violence the Council had expected. It was the relentless drive to improve, to solve problems, to build something better than what came before. The Council had realized their error, but only after it was too late to stop the transformation of galactic civilization. Humanity had been unleashed, and the galaxy would never be the same. In systems throughout Council space, populations were making their choice. Freedom over security. Progress over stability. The future over the past. The age of the Galactic Council was ending. The age of the Terran Confederation had begun. And, despite all their fears and calculations, the Council was discovering that this might be the best thing that had ever happened to galactic civilization. The humans had shown them that the greatest error was not in unleashing a dangerous species upon the galaxy. It was in believing that danger and progress were incompatible, when in fact they were inseparable. The galaxy was finally free to become what it had always had the potential to be. The humans had simply provided the catalyst for its transformation.